On this week's episode of the EchoCast, we will talk about a Battlefield 2042 review, Halo Infinite single-player previews, the Game Awards nominations, Bobby Kotick and Activision, Streamlabs drama, and much, much more. Let's get into it. Welcome to the EchoCast, a gaming podcast brought to you by me, Bon Diesel. Please take a moment to subscribe to and rate this podcast on whatever platform you are listening to it on. Thank you to this month's Patreon supporters, PK, Uber, Timmy, Hassan, Darren, Christian, Man-Made Golf, Grano, and The Dawn. If you would like to support this podcast and my other content, please check out patreon.com/BonDiesel. I am doing a Extra Life 2021 fundraiser for the rest of this year. If you would please contribute, I would very much appreciate it. We are at $630 of my $1,000 goal for this year. So please go to Extra Life and search for Bon Diesel and donate. And it would be as part of the Kinda Funny Extra Life team. Last, before we jump into the news, I am doing a Logitech bundle giveaway of a headset, keyboard, and mouse. The links are in the description comments of this episode, or you can check out my Twitter to enter. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about games and stuff. First, I will talk about Battlefield 2042 in my kind of off the top of my head review. So my history with Battlefield is I've been playing since the very first one. Oddly, one of my favorites is probably 2041. Is that what it was? 2040? Whatever the old one, futuristic one was definitely one of my favorites. And when we heard about 2042, I was actually kind of hoping it'd be 2043. It would be a sequel of that old one, but instead it's a bit of a prequel. It seems like this one's supposed to kind of be in the middle of Battlefield 4 and in the old futuristic one. And so we don't quite have, because Battlefield 4, if you remember, had some like prototype tech that was in the futuristic Battlefield before it. And what's interesting is I don't really know when this one's supposed to be set, because we aren't seeing any of that stuff, at least not yet. We could in the future. But yeah, so we'll see. So I'm a long time Battlefield fan. Especially Bad Company 2 is probably the game I played the most. And the single player was great, but especially the multiplayer, it was just wild. It was so good. And it wasn't just the multiplayer, it was the progression system. So big fan, love the series, and really excited about this new game. And so I played the open beta on PC and Series X a few weeks ago. Really liked it. It was definitely a bit of a mess, and there were rumors that they were going to delay it again, but they didn't. We'll talk about that kind of stuff. There's a lot of conversation happening about 2042 right now, but I want to give my actual impressions first, and then we'll address that. So I think it's great. It's a really good game. Is it worth $60 for a multiplayer only experience? That's kind of up to you. If you've never played a Battlefield game before, I would have a hard time, like really hard recommending this to you. I think I would argue that I didn't like 1 or 5, the World War I and the World War II games that came out most recently. So my frame of reference goes back more to 3 and 4. 4 had a really rough launch, and then 3 had some issues too. And what's funny is that while the launch of 2042 is being kind of portrayed as being this big disaster. And I keep seeing all these super fun articles from all these super fun people being like, "Oh, it's a disaster, and all their players hate it, and is Battlefield over?" Like, this is a better launch than 3 or 4 from what I remember. Straight up, you couldn't play. I think it was 4. You just couldn't play it for a while. There was a few days or even longer. It just wasn't playable. And so I keep seeing people saying like, "Oh, it's a buggy mess. It's unplayable, blah, blah, blah." And maybe for some people it is. I don't know. I haven't experienced every single person's problems. Um, admittedly, I bought the game on Xbox Series X because I did have issues on my PC. It just didn't feel good. Didn't feel like it ran well, even though my PC is more powerful than my Series X. Um, but it runs great on my Series X. I've had a few minor issues, but nothing big. And I feel bad for those having tech issues, but so far I've been actually really impressed. It's worked really well. Um, so we go beyond that, right? So we move on to talking about um, just the game itself. So you talk about things like the gameplay. Like, I think the gunplay feels great. I've seen people complain about it. I don't know. I think it feels good, especially on a controller. Which Battlefield, I feel like, always struggled with making these games feel good on controllers. This is the first one that feels like great, in my opinion. The progression, it feels pretty good. This is the type of game, and this is my advice. If you're thinking about buying it, if you played old Battlefield games, you know you gotta play for 3, 4, 5 hours before you start to get a feel for the maps, get a feel for the game flow, get a feel for the equipment and the guns and everything, right? Um, and so you're probably good. You're probably good to buy this. If you haven't ever played a Battlefield game before, I was streaming today and someone said that they were in that situation. I said, you need to play for 5 to 10 hours before you make a judgment. And that's a lot of time for a lot of people to put into a game. And I understand that. But you really do have to get into it and start to understand the way the game flows and the way the game works, because it's not like Call of Duty. You just can't jump in and play. You have to learn the maps. You have to learn the places to go or not to go, the things you're supposed to do, the things that you shouldn't be doing. Just how the game has a very unique flavor and feel. And if you don't get into it, and you're seeing this with a lot of the reviews of this game, that you can tell these people either aren't Battlefield fans or it never clicked for them, which is fine, and they can give their experiences, but you can just tell that um, you really have to get in to Battlefield to enjoy it. And that's why it's never been as successful as Call of Duty. Call of Duty, you can jump in 5 minutes, you're in it, and you know what you're doing. Battlefield's not like that. Battlefield's an investment. And for someone who's willing to do that, I think it's really, really good. It needs more guns. Um, the specialization stuff, the specialist I'm mixed on. I don't dislike them. I don't like that if I see a guy in a ghillie suit, I can at least kind of guess that he has like a sniper rifle or a DMR. He'll pop out with an SMG and mow me down. I kind of hate that. So I do miss that old system in that way, where you used to be able to kind of size up someone's capabilities with their tech and their guns by the type of class they were, and now you can't do that. Is that better or worse? I don't know. That's very subjective, you know. So that's up to you. But I play the game. I've played a good probably 10 or 15, maybe even close to 20 hours. I've played 5 to 10 hours of Halo, and Halo's getting all this praise, which it deserves. We'll talk about that next. It's great. It's so good. Halo's so good. It feels great to play. I keep coming back to Battlefield. I like it more. It's more satisfying to me. I like them both a ton. I can't wait for the Halo single player, which we'll talk about. But I see all these articles, all these people talking about how much of a failure 2042 is, how much they love Halo. I like them both, and I would prefer to play 2042 right now. So maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't know, man. But I think 2042 is great, and I highly, highly suggest it. If you don't like it, or if you disagree or something, I'm happy to hear you out and get your reasons. If it's tech issues, that sucks. I'm sorry. I haven't experienced those, so I can't really empathize there. they had an update come out today that really did seem to help with some of the rubber banding and stuff like that. And they say, they have to actually do this, but that they have 2 more updates coming in the next month, and that should fix a lot more of the bigger issues. I don't know. The game needs more guns. It needs more maps, more modes, more choice on what you're doing. It needs some like team deathmatch kind of stuff, I think. I'm not interested in Portal, and that's actually what a lot of people really like about the game. So, the Portal, where you can play the old games or play modes and use equipment and weapons from the old games, and then some people can customize stuff, which that's probably going to get crazy in the next month or two. And then the BR, I haven't even touched it. I have zero interest in that. If I want to play a BR, I'll play Apex. It's the best BR, at least in my opinion. So why would I? I mean, it looks fine, but it just doesn't look like there's any really reward. And I'm not teaming up with 3 people and doing voice comms and all that. I just want to go in there, blow people's heads off, send my little robot doggy out to shoot people, put down my turret, snipe people's heads. That's what I'm in Battlefield for. Maybe blow up some tanks. That's what I really love. With the creator media reaction, man, there's all this talk about like on Metacritic and on Steam reviews and stuff like that. Well, it's one of the lowest rated games ever. Yeah, it's getting brigaded. It's why I don't care about user reviews anymore. When I look at a Metascore, I don't care about the user score. I never have. You shouldn't, because if it's a topic of conversation, it's because it's getting brigaded. And these like Battlefield 2042 isn't a 10 out of 10 game. Right now, 7.5 out of 10. Once they maybe add some more stuff, fix some things up, I think it can attain like an 8.5 out of 10. But people are rating it 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 0 out of 10. I mean, it's not that. It's a much better game than that. So when people start giving it reviews like that and brigading and just piling on, then you start to see some of the game journalists and stuff feel the motion of the ocean, and they start repeating this shit. Even if they aren't playing it, and even if they don't care about it, if they haven't made their own opinion, they're happy to jump on that train. So I am highly suggesting it if it's the type of game that you're already interested in. I think 2042 is great, and I think it's only going to get better as they take in feedback and start to change things as they deem they need to and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about a bunch of the crap I've seen. To me, it just seems like a lot of brigading and a lot of jumping on the hate train. And maybe I have bad taste in games. I don't know. I don't think I do. And I think 2042 is a good game. And I think it sucks that, people there's a few reviewers I watch a lot. And I could have told you before they made their first Battlefield video, because it's an EA game or whatever, that they were going to shit on it no matter how good or bad it was. And that's come to fruition. So if you see someone highly not recommending something, keep that in mind. The second story is the Halo Infinite single player. It's been shown to a bunch of creators and a bunch of big publications, and they're putting out a whole bunch of reviews and things like that. And overall, it seems very positive. So my concern, as well as a lot of others, is that this open world Halo is just going to be Far Cry with Halo guns, right? And from most of the reviews I've seen, it's been people saying like, no, it's not that. It's not that big. It's not that bloated. It's not that overdone. It's a smaller experience than that. It's more focused. It has some of those elements, but not to the point where it's like tedious, but where it's cool. And you don't have to do it. If you don't want to upgrade your Master Chief, if you just want to go through story stuff, you can just do that, and it's easy. You can tell where you need to go, which is really refreshing, because that was a big concern from a lot of people. Like, okay, the multiplayer is great. We know that. Everyone's loving it. They're probably going to fail at the single player. And it was so weird. Like, you could almost tell that it seemed like there were people who were like, oh man, the Halo multiplayer feels like it's back. I sure hope the single player sucks so I can still hate Halo. It's been really interesting watching the reaction to it, because I don't know. It just really seems like people want to hate it. And that's a bummer, because it deserves better than that. In the single player, I've seen some talk about There's some technical issues. Digital Foundry did a big video and saw some stuff they didn't really love, but it all seems like stuff that's probably going to get fixed. Um, some talk about I really Skill Up did a video talking about how like the story doesn't seem like it's going to be that intriguing, and the main enemy doesn't seem all that interesting, and that how their target is like people my age in their 30s and not kids anymore. No, no, it's not. It's absolutely still kids. Like, so yeah, this enemy may not be the most complex enemy in the world, but he's big and loud and scary. And um, obviously, they're targeting people my age for nostalgia reasons. But if you don't think that Halo Infinite is gunning for a younger generation, because they have to, because we're all gonna die one day sooner than later when the Xbox 15 comes out. It's absolutely shooting. So Halo has a great story, but it's not great because of how amazing it's written and things like that. It's great because of the characters, and the characters are there. Um, the main point I've seen from these previews is it seems like what they only got to see the first 3 or 4 hours of the game, and they're like, it's good. It feels good to play. It feels amazing to play. To the point of people saying it's the most fun they've ever had playing Halo, which is a big deal. It seems like there's some people who think it's just going to be that for like 15 hours. And then some people who think that like, oh, they're going to throw in some big wrenches to really like hype up the drama, to hype up the everything factors, which is where I lean. So to me, it seems like it's, a good reception. People are excited about it. It's not doing what they feared it would, and it's doing things that they didn't expect but are good. So, my thoughts on it are, I mean, I'm super excited. I'm so excited to play this. I played 4. I don't remember it, if I have to be totally honest. Obviously, I played 1, 2, and 3. Never played Reach. Tried to, didn't really like it, and so I feel like a weirdo because of that. Same with oh, there's the other like kind of spin-off one that I wasn't really a huge fan of either. Um, but yeah, man, I thought 4 was okay, and I thought 5, like, I have all the same complaints most other people did. And while I don't think that Infinite is like 343's last chance, I like some people are very, on that boat. I do think they need to stick this landing, both for their sake and for Xbox's sake. And honestly, just gaming. When Halo's good, gaming's better. Because when Halo's good, Sony has to take notice, and they have to stop making every one of their exclusive games third-person story narrative games. That like hopefully Halo's really good, so Sony is forced to do something outside of their mold. They do their stuff so well. They're so good at what they do, but my God, every time you see a Sony exclusive game, it's going to be a third person adventure story game, which is cool. But man, it would be great to see Sony have a first person shooter multiplayer game that everyone loves. Killzone has gone by the wayside, never really met, like, it never got close to Halo, right? So, when Halo is good, gaming is better, and that's what I'm hoping for. The single player for Halo releases to everyone on December 8th, at 1 o'clock my time, Eastern time. I do plan on being on for a stream, to stream for at least a few hours that day and check it out with anyone who wants to stop by. So put that on the calendar. Make sure to come by and follow me at twitch.tv/BonDiesel. Okay, third story here, the Game Awards. So Jeff Keighley, they did their show where they put out all the nominations. The big one, Game of the Year nominated Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. So looking at this list, I did not finish any of these games. I played Psychonauts, liked it, didn't love it. Platformers aren't my thing. Didn't really care for the aesthetic. Never played the first game. So this just has no, like, there's no heartstrings, no nostalgia for me for that game. But I liked it from what I played. So I've mostly just watched all of these games. And I've watched all of them be played from start to finish. When I work, I typically have playthroughs on, if there's no podcast or anything for me to listen to. And the game that I think is a mile ahead of the rest of these games is It Takes Two. It's not even close. Maybe it doesn't have the best graphics. Maybe it's, the whole co-op thing isn't for everyone. It is the most impressive game on this list. Honestly, I can't believe Resident Evil Village is on here. I mean, I get it's a Resident Evil game. People really lauded that game. I thought his story kind of sucked. The main antagonist is awful, or the protagonist, and the antagonist, I don't know. It was just so kind of lame to me. I don't know. It was so predictable and just not really that impressive. And I thought that game looked awful. I couldn't believe, like, people would always talk, man, this game looks so good, but the animations were bad. The gunplay, you could tell, even though I haven't played it, you could tell the gunplay was bad. So playing the game didn't look fun. I didn't think the game looked that great. Obviously, in the close up, facial, like that all looked fine. But seeing like the werewolves and shit looked terrible. I was really amazed that it's like people were like scared to be like, oh, this game kind of looks booty, you know? Yeah. So if I had to pick one here, It Takes Two. Which one do I think is actually gonna win? I would say Psychonauts or Ratchet probably have the highest chance of winning. I've heard a lot of people who I know have votes talk about Psychonauts. And Ratchet and Clank, it sounds like its technical prowess was a bit overblown, because there was a lot of talk about how a lot of the things that game does, that they were like, only the PS5 can do it with its even faster than Series X SSD. And then some programmers came out, were like, no, that we could do this on a hard drive. Like, we could have done this on old tech. It's definitely easier on the newer tech, but it's not doing anything that impressive. It was a lot of marketing bluster, right? But people like that game. It sounds like it was really fun and it did some cool stuff. So it deserves to be on this list. I would say the biggest topic of discussion after this list came out was how Forza Horizon 5 got snubbed. Highest rated game this year. It came out within like the gray window of eligibility for this award, and I think that's it's a racing game and it came out like a little too late are the two technical reasons people have given. I don't know. I think if Forza was on this list, it is by far the best game that would have been on this list. For me, It Takes Two comes up. I think Psychonauts or Ratchet gets it, but the Forza thing is interesting because Forza did get nominated for another award. I think it was for the simulation or something like that. And hopefully it wins that, because it should win any awards it actually got nominated for. I think it got onto the accessibility as well. So, yeah, I hope It Takes Two wins. Ferris, I know that it's under EA, so there's people who hate that, but that game is insanely inventive. And even if you just watch the playthrough of it, if you find a playthrough of it, that's the whole playthrough in one video. I dare you to try to click through the timeline and not be amazed by what you're seeing, because that game starts and it looks very predictable at first. But like, stuff happens in that game that like blows your mind, and basically it's like 100 games in one game, but it's not like the Mario or the WarioWare thing where it's just a bunch of these little mini games. Like, it's fully fleshed out. Like, I believe so from what I've seen, there's like flying, there's platforming, there's all this puzzle solving, there's like a Diablo type level where you play through like that. There's all of this. Just, it's wild. It's such a cool game, and I really hope it wins because it deserves it the most of all of these games, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. I do plan on streaming this show, so this is on December 9th, that evening. So it says it starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time. There is I think they do like an hour pre-show, so I'm not going to stream all that. I'll probably jump on right before 8 when they actually do the show, because there's supposed to be a bunch of huge reveals. So I definitely want to be there for that. And whoever wants to stop by, then we'll check it out and watch it all together and react together. So a little insert here in the middle. Please join my Discord in the description or links below to chat about this episode, to dig into conversation about games like The Division, Mass Effect, anything that's coming out, talking about stories like the ones that we're about to talk about. Or you can even suggest stories and topics that you want me to hear, or you want me to talk about. And I would love to have you. So check out the Discord and pop in. If you're a Twitch subscriber or a Patreon patron, you do get a special role. Your name is super cool colors, um, and we just get to chat. And we have a decent number of people in there. We talk, I'd say about at least once or twice a day. There's a little spark of conversation, and we get into some cool stuff. So come check it out. Come say hi. Also, if you have any questions or topics for the next show, you can ask in my Discord. You can ask me on Twitter. You can submit them in YouTube comments, or you can even do a voice message through Anchor. And last but not least, you can ask through the Patreon page by either messaging me or posting on the last episode. Okay, so jumping into the three stories I have left here at the end, Bobby Kotick and Activision. So for basically this whole year, there's been lots of talk about Bobby Kotick and Activision and a bunch of abuse and awful shit that was happening in Activision for a long time, even recently. A bunch of people lost their jobs. Bobby Kotick, who's the CEO of Activision Blizzard, put out a whole bunch of statements saying this is awful. You know, we're going to get rid of people. We're going to change the rules. They implemented things like zero tolerance policies and stuff like that. And then the Wall Street Journal put out an article where they dug in and found a bunch of evidence that he knew about this stuff long before it was addressed more recently, and two, that he did a bunch of weird shit himself, and that he, if these allegations are true, which the Wall Street Journal has vetted, he should be subject to his own zero tolerance policy. And predictably, the way this has been reacted to is him denying it and saying no, and Activision being like, "Well, we haven't found any wrongdoing, so the zero tolerance policy doesn't approve to him if we investigated ourselves and found nothing." And and even the Activision board came out and was very supportive of him, and that's where we're at. So this has been going on for a while. This is different because this time you had the head of PlayStation, the head of Xbox, a ton of people in the media, creators, influencers coming out and being like, "Hey, Bobby Kotick's got to go. Like, we need to do this." And even investors in Activision have come out and been like, "Hey, like let's knock this shit out. Like let's start over." But he's still there, and there's even been talk that there's people who think that Xbox and PlayStation may stop selling Activision games until he's gone, things like that. I don't know, man. Money talks. I don't really expect that to happen. I think he will leave eventually. I suspect he will leave once things quiet down. He can kind of act like it was on his own accord and not because of what was alleged or what was found about him. And he'll get a nice big fat severance package and probably get replaced by someone worse. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. In a story that shouldn't be related, but I'm going to argue it is, there was also a big Streamlabs controversy this week. So Streamlabs is a company that does a whole bunch of stuff, but it's mostly like a game streamer help website. Their main business at least started off doing like stream alerts and things like that. So if you're watching a streamer and it pops up that someone gave them bits or donated or bought a t-shirt or followed their page, that's what Streamlabs does, are those alerts. In recent years, they've also ventured into a whole bunch of related stuff, from having a software that you can use to stream called Slobs or Streamlabs OBS, to having charity things, and they have their fingers in everything. They've essentially taken everything that you can do around streaming and made their own version of it. And that's where some of the issues have come up. So what happened this week is they revealed a new partnership with Twitch and Xbox, where they have a new software that will essentially let you stream to Twitch, but allow you to do everything, like put up like your camera and alerts and a cool theme and everything, without having a computer running software that does that for you. So the way you stream typically is you have a computer and you have a capture card, or you play on your computer and you use a bit of software that collects everything into one spot and then sends it to Twitch. Well, this this thing that they are doing now, this new announcement was first a hardware or software suite that would let you do it straight from your Xbox. And it's actually really cool. It opens up streaming to a whole lot more people. The problem is that their announcement website was a perfect copy with some very small alterations of a competitor called Lightstream. Lightstream caught on to this, posted screenshots and kind of a snarky tweet, and uh, the the dam broke, and so people ragged on Streamlabs. A lot of people don't like Streamlabs because they do have a habit of I've seen a lot of people accusing them of plagiarism. In this light stream situation, maybe a little, maybe, that's probably fair. But for the most part, they just buy companies. They see someone doing something unique and cool in streaming, and they just buy them, and then they slap Streamlabs on it. Um, I use a bunch of their software, full disclosure. I use their Streamlabs OBS, I use their alerts, I use their I think the best product I use from them is their chatbot, and it's not a cloud chatbot like Nightbot and other ones. Um, it's a piece of software I run on my computer, and um, it's Inkbot. So if you streamed a long time ago and you know what Inkbot is, Streamlabs bought it and took it over, and it became Streamlabs chatbot. And it's great. It's the most versatile chatbot. I love it. I've tried to use other ones. I've not liked a single one of them. And this one is so good. It does everything I want and more. And so I'm definitely annoyed about all this because, well, I know that they've been in hot water multiple times with kind of like stupid stuff. This was definitely a pretty black eye, and they apologized about copying the website word for word, and they changed it, and that's all kind of resolved. For me, I mean, Lightstream, like I've never heard of Lightstream before. Obviously, you never want to have your products like copied or stolen. Um, I bet Lightstream has more users than they've ever had before, even though probably not for long, because these things, when these things happen, someone gets dunked on like Streamlabs did. Someone gets lifted to the sky as a savior like Lightstream, and then like 3 or 4 days later, people forget about it all, and everything goes back to normal. Even the same with a second situation that popped up here was on top of this OBS Studio. So they're the open source developers who came up with OBS in the first place, which is was like the first big program for people to use to stream. Say, well, hey, like Streamlabs OBS just took um, our free use software, and now they're charging people for it. And we asked them not to use OBS in their name, and they still did, and blah blah blah. And then that turned into a whole nother show, right? And so things just kept stacking on. It was really funny. Elgato tried to jump in on it, and they're like, "Yeah, we know what it's like," because Streamlabs has a feature where you can have an app on your phone where you can have buttons on your phone that acts a lot like the Stream Deck that Elgato sells, that has the buttons where you can hit the buttons for different functions. It's like macros on your computer, which is just stupid because the Streamlabs thing is great in that say, and you don't have to pay $400 for a little block of buttons. Elgato's never gonna get my sympathy. They charge like 75% too much for everything they sell. So they tried to jump in on this. No one really cared. But the OBS thing was a pretty big deal. My issue with it is the way it was talked about and reported by a lot of people was that Streamlabs OBS was taking OBS's free use stuff, open source stuff, and charging for that, which isn't true. Streamlabs OBS is free, and you can stream and do everything you can do with OBS Studio, you can do on Streamlabs for free. What Streamlabs charges for is stuff on top of that. I've purchased that subscription before. It was like $100 and something for a year. It came with a bunch of stuff that looked really cool at first, but at the end of the day, the only thing I actually used was the merch store, and I sold like 4 or 5 pieces of merch in the last year. So it didn't even come close to paying off what I paid to use their merch store, which is why I've left their merch store. Not really in protest, but more because it's not worth the money to me. Um, I've seen a lot of weird stuff with this. One is a lot of like very convenient explanations or sensationalized facts about Streamlabs. I don't like Streamlabs. I don't have any personal affinity for them. I'm just not really a big fan of people blatantly jumping on a bandwagon. There's a bunch of really good reasons to not like Streamlabs. A lot of the ones being brought up during this whole situation were iffy at best, in my opinion. I'm going to keep using them. I have no reason not to. I've tried to use OBS Studio. I've tried to use other pieces of software, even Twitch Studio. They have their own software that's like super duper simple, which I like. Um, but I've tried using the other ones and I just like Slobs the best. I've been using it since the day it came out. And I'm probably going to keep doing that. So unless there's like pictures of their CEO, like stabbing puppies or something, I'm, kind of watching this from afar. And I think what's really annoyed me about it is that we saw Philip DeFranco, who, if you don't know who he is, he's a YouTube personality, one of the bigger ones like ever in the history of YouTube, has a daily news show. And even on his show, the Streamlabs story came before the Bobby Kotick one. And so you're talking about this kind of like stream website alerts drama somehow getting elevated as a story above a CEO of one of the biggest companies in the country who makes insane amounts of money, knowingly covering up and ignoring abuse and even potentially committing it themselves, who isn't out of their job. Somehow that story came after the Streamlabs story. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. I'm not into all of that. I'm sure this was just someone looked at the metrics and decided that story will get more clicks than the other one. What I do think is really interesting is that there were a bunch of big creators really pushing this Streamlabs story. And what I think is super interesting is that most of the ones I saw, one, hadn't mentioned the Bobby Kotick thing at all. Were 100% focused on the Streamlabs story. And two, a bunch of them make Call of Duty content, Warzone content, and have Activision creator codes. So at the very least, it's a conflict of interest, and at the very worst, it definitely just felt weird that somehow this Streamlabs story, which was really, at the end of the day, it was really just Streamlabs just copied the website and then they fixed it, and that was stupid. And then OBS was like, well, they copied our stuff, which they're actually allowed to do it because that's literally the whole point. And they aren't actually charging for anything that we did, but we wish they wouldn't have done that. And now Streamlabs has taken the OBS out of the title of their software. I think the Streamlabs thing sucks. I think Streamlabs sucks. I get it. But what bites me is that story shouldn't have gotten bigger than the Bobby Kotick story, and it did. I hope it wasn't on purpose. I hope there wasn't a campaign by Activision to try to pay for redirects to that story when people were searching for stuff and all that. You never know. We're in a weird time right now of misinformation and just weird stuff on the internet, and it's hard to find the truth about anything. So I don't want to dive down that rabbit hole, but I'm bummed that the Streamlabs story became so big and the Bobby Kotick story just kind of disappeared. And unfortunately, I think it means that there won't be enough pressure on Kotick to leave. And I think that sucks because this Streamlabs thing will be forgotten about next week. So I don't know. There we are with that. The final story I put here as a bit of an uplift was a brief talk about the Xbox 20-year anniversary event they did. They made it real clear. They were like, hey, no big news. We're not revealing anything big. This isn't going to be we're going to announce 15 new games. We're just going to enjoy the history of Xbox. And that's what it was. It was a bunch of cool, nostalgic videos and conversations and interviews that if you've played Xbox since the first one, like I have, so much of the stuff was it just hit me right here. And then at the end, they were like, oh, by the way, Halo multiplayer will be in beta until the release of the single player. So they released the multiplayer of Halo 3 weeks early, basically. So people have been going nuts on that. I've played a decent amount of it. Like I said, I've actually been pulled back to 2042, but I have been dabbling in Halo as well. And it's just, the multiplayer is so polished. It's so fun. There's stuff they need to fix, and they're already fixing things like the progression of the battle pass and things like that. But Halo's good, man. Multiplayer's great. If you enjoyed Halo 2, 3 multiplayer, I highly suggest checking it out. And it's free on Steam, PC, Xbox, everywhere. Well, not PlayStation, obviously, but unless Phil finds a way, but we'll have to wait and see. Um, yeah, it was a cool little show. It didn't like they said, it didn't blow up any big news topics or anything that crazy, but I think the reveal of the multiplayer for Halo 3 weeks early was kind of a big deal, and it was just a great show. So if you're a big Xbox fan or just a games fan in general, I really suggest watching that VOD and just enjoying it because it was just nice. Okay, so we're gonna move on to some listener questions. The dependable, the wonderful Master Prime on Discord had two quick questions. Thoughts on the progression system and store pricing of Halo Infinite's multiplayer. So we were just talking about that. So the progression system just already got updated. So they've gone from, so like Call of Duty, basically every game ever made for the last like 10 years has a progression model of every kill you get, every win you have, every match you play, you get a bunch of points for everything you do, and you progress that way. And typically, like your first 10 levels progress really quickly, and then it slows down because they want to hook you and then keep you. And Halo wasn't like that when it came out. You can only progress by completing challenges, and some of the challenges are like pretty intense and very specific. So already in the first week of the beta being out until the full release in a few weeks, they've already changed it. They've made it so you earn points every match you play. I think they're eventually going to, you still don't get points for every kill you make and things like that, but they made all the challenges a lot easier. They made it so you did get points for every match you do. And it seems like it's made a lot of people relax and be a little more willing to wait to see what the long-term plan is. And they're already implementing things like their battle pass events, and all kinds of stuff. So I think the progression is fine and that they'll fine tune it better. You have to keep in mind that these seasons last for 6 months. That's a long time. That's 3 or 4 months longer than a lot of the battle passes with other games. And the battle pass never goes away. So like in Apex, I missed like 5 seasons straight and missed a bunch of cool stuff I would have loved to have gotten. And you can't get it. It's gone. With Halo, once season 1 is over and they move to season 2, you can go in and select season 1 and keep working on it. And you can work on it for the next 3 years and just slowly get everything that was on it. And then 2 will be waiting for you, even though it's been out for 2.5 years. So I think it's fine. I think the pricing of the items is awful. I saw like single skins or fairly small sets of stuff are like 10, $20. That's a bit much in my opinion. And they might need to calm that down a little bit. But I still don't, I mean, it's a free to play game. So they have to monetize. Like, I think the monetization can be a little bit more fair, but we'll have to kind of wait to see if they adjust that as well. Master Prime's second question here was, can BF 2042 Hazard Zone last more than 2 months? This is probably in reference to the Battlefield 5 BR mode that they had, and legit, I think it lasted like 2 months before they shut the servers down. I don't know, man. I've seen some creators and stuff who really like it. It seems like people are playing it. I think the big issue is that there's like it was kind of initially billed as like a Tarkov thing. It's not like Tarkov at all. It's much more like Hunt Showdown. And the problem with Hunt Showdown is that has like, a long-term progression system, and stuff that you can unlock and that you get from having one of your, what do they call their people, bounty hunters or something like that, live for a long time. And that there is like that real sense of progression where it feels like Hazard Zone is still kind of just cobbled together, and maybe they'll have big updates and events and stuff like that. But I know I have zero interest in it. If I want to play a game like that, I'll fire up Apex and play it. That's so simple for me. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll last. The problem is that like with Battlefield 5, when they did their BR, it was just kind of tacked on. And it wasn't like a core part of the game. Hazard Zone is one of the 3 main modes that you can play with Battlefield. So, with Battlefield 2042. So I don't think they can just give up on it. I think they have to keep trying to make it relevant. Whether they'll succeed, I don't know. I have no idea. I know I won't be part of keeping it going. I'll be playing Conquest and Breakpoint or whatever it's called. So um, I don't know. We'll see. As for some content updates, I do have some really cool news division wise. I can't go a whole podcast without mentioning the division. The book that comes out in February, the division recruited, opened up for reviews. And so you could submit to get a review copy. And I did, and I got it. So I think I'm about a quarter of the way through the book right now. I need to verify some stuff with like embargoes and stuff. It kind of sounds like there's no embargo. So in theory, I can review it as soon as I'm done. What I will say is it's awesome. And I really, really like the New York Collapse book for the Division One. I really, really enjoyed was it Broken Dawn for Division Two? I actually liked it more. I like the actual storytelling that Alex Irvine did. I thought it was really good. I think that Recruited might be better than both of them. It's a really good story. What's so painful about Broken Broken Dawn and this Recruited book is that they tell so much better stories than the games. The games tell so many cool side stories and have so many cool themes and stuff, but these last two books, like this book and the one for the Division 2, just tell these like really cool stories with great characters. And I would just kill for like the Last of Us 2 style um division game, like game in the division universe that tells these stories, and you get to play them and see the grittiness and the pain and the death and the triumph and the strain. Like, oh, they're so good. So once I figure out some more stuff about the Recruited book and what I'm allowed to say when, I'll do a full review on here. I'll probably do a separate video, and I actually plan on typing up a full review and trying to submit it to IGN, Kotaku, a bunch of the websites to see if anyone will run my story. I can't imagine that many people are reviewing this, but it is directly game related to a big franchise. So it seems like a pretty good opportunity for me to try to get published, and I think that would be exhilarating. So be on the lookout for that. I have done a light rebranding on both Bond Diesel and the EchoCast. So if you're watching the video episode here, I've mostly just done colors. I've tried to kind of distinguish the brands a bit. I'm obviously pretty Xbox focused. So for the EchoCast, I've given ourselves a bit of a green theme here. And over on Bond Diesel, I'm streaming on Twitch again. And so I figured I'd go with the purple. So I have done some changes on the merch store and things like that, which is now Designed by Humans. So if you want to get a sticker or a coffee mug or a t-shirt, they're on there. Honestly, the EchoCast t-shirts look freaking cool. It's the Echo logo with the black Echo and the black controller on a like a dark gray or almost black shirt, and it's like, so it's kind of stealthy. It looks really dope. I think it looks great. I plan on ordering one for myself. So and there's mouse pads, and those actually look really cool too, and they're really well priced. It's a 36 by 18-inch mouse pad, which is like, I don't know, other places 40-50 bucks for one with a design. I just got a brand new basic one that was 20. For 27 bucks, you can get one of these mouse pads with my stupid logo on it. I don't know. I almost did it. I already ordered a new one. So I'll probably get one the next time I need one. So you can check those out. And the last bit here was talking about the merch. So I have moved my merch over to Designed by Humans. Like I said, Streamlabs, I actually really like their merch store. It's super easy to use, and they will actually ship to other countries. Designed by Humans won't. I sell like 4 or 5 items a year right now. It's not worth the 150 bucks I have to pay Streamlabs to do this. I wish I could, if I sold enough merch to justify it, I would do it 100%, but I don't. And my wife will murder me if I do that. And also keep in mind, any merch that gets sold, as well as a bunch of other things, any profits will go straight to Extra Life. So you can check out my Extra Life page for all of my incentives on there. But if you buy merch, if you join my Patreon, your first month, whatever you give me goes straight to Extra Life. There's a bunch of stuff on there, so you can check out that. And that's where we're going to start to wrap things up. So I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/BondDiesel. I also post the podcast, stream VODs, and various narrative, game, and gaming news update videos on my YouTube. Just look up BondDiesel. You can check out my Twitter at BondDiesel for all of my daily thoughts and complaints, or you can follow at the EchoCast for just straight gaming news and EchoCast updates. If you want some cool EchoCast or BondDiesel merch, please check out designbyhumans.com/shop/BondDiesel. That's all I have. So until next time.